UFC 313 brought us an exciting main card headlined by the light heavyweight championship on the line in the main event. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev is what we were all looking forward to. And guys, we have a new light heavyweight champion. His name is Ankalaev, and he deserves where he is. If I'm being honest with you, we know about the run that he's had in the light heavyweight division, the one defeat that he's had to Paul Craig. He went into this fight against Pereira on an 11-fight unbeaten streak. He has more than earned his way to the title shot. It was one that we were all expecting to happen. It's been delayed for whatever reason. A number of issues with Ankalaev not winning that first title fight against Jan, setting back most definitely. Pereira has, taken the light heavyweight division and the UFC by storm. But this fight tells a story for me. And I don't want to make my own assumptions. Firstly, there's been some discussions around who won. I've watched the fight. I've watched it back. And for me, Ankalaev wins that 3-2. I don't really see much of a debate. I would even, you could potentially lean to 4-1, but I would say 3-2 to me is a clean way of scoring that fight. He was the more aggressive fighter. And that to me is one of the most surprising parts of what we watched. Pereira was a shell of himself. Normally when I see him, I look at him and he has the demeanor, he has the swagger, he has even the frame. He looked different. And I may be over exaggerating, guys. You can tell me what you saw. I want to hear your thoughts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment as well. But he didn't, normally when he's at the light heavyweight division, I'm like, he's big enough to be a heavyweight. But he looked like he was just a light heavyweight. He didn't look bigger, stronger, even though he was slightly bigger than Ankalaev. Don't get me wrong. He just didn't have the same demeanor, the same presence. I do have to question the work. And again, it's hard for a non-fighter to question a fighter's work, but the drive and the determination, and you have to understand the fame that Alex Pereira's gotten over this period of time. He is the golden boy for UFC, or he was the golden boy, with all of their stars, falling out of, form or favor. Conor McGregor, Adesanya. Alex Pereira was the one that they could put up against a John Jones, that they could put up against a Tom Aspinall, that they could, even run another fight with Israel Adesanya. There's multiple opportunities. He was their golden boy. And I feel like from all I've seen, again, a lot of it is promo stuff, media stuff, he was enjoying himself. And I'm not saying that's what's contributed to the loss, but I have to analyze the full picture. And that's where I gave Ankalaev a shot. Like, he was still the hungry, determined fighter who was looking to become the champion, whereas Alex Pereira has tasted the success, and he's tasted the success early and often. And going into the fight, again, I'll say it again, Ankalaev was the more aggressive. Alex Pereira, I think, was slightly better in the first round. Rounds 2, rounds 3, rounds 4, I give all of them to Ankalaev, if I'm being honest with you. Pereira, timid, was being walked down a lot. He defended the takedowns well, amazingly well. Ankalaev's ground game isn't to the level of his striking. He is a striker first and foremost. And on the feet, he was the better fighter. He was definitely the better fighter. Pereira didn't let his hands go. When he did, he was taking as many punches and not, connecting on as many as you would have liked. But the output by Ankalaev was great. The demeanor he was exhibiting was great. He looked like the champion more than Pereira did, and that's the disappointment. Where does Pereira go from here? He can definitely take on the rematch, and he has the ability, if he applies himself and fights in the manner that we know he can, to make this a lot more of a difficult night for Ankalaev. I don't think he was taken to places that he should have been taken to. Ankalaev should have been at a point rocked heavy. And yeah, there was a moment in the fight where he was caught, unaware in the last round, but it wasn't enough. We needed more from the champion, or former champion, I should say now. Can he come back for the rematch? Definitely. Should be on the table. His win back, definitely. Some would say go to heavyweight immediately. I wouldn't be against that. Build up with some fights, build up the way you have through the middleweight division, light heavyweight division, and now the heavyweight division. Get some high profile opponents, get some wins under your belt, and then set up a super fight with either John Jones or Aspinall. Those are the options for him. I do believe. I don't think going down makes any sense for him. Staying at light heavyweight only makes sense if he's going for the title. Even the first round, which, yes, you could argue and say he won, he wasn't dominating. He wasn't himself. And that's what I think the story should really be. what happened with Alex Pereira in terms of the way he fights. Very gung-ho, very forward, very machine-like. Will take as many shots as is needed to get where he needs to go. He did it against Yuri, he did it against Israel. He's someone who can definitely be hit. He was hit against Ankalaev, but he would normally walk through those. He would normally exhibit and establish his own rhythm, his own pressure. But Ankalaev was the one who was delivering the pressure this time. So congrats to the champion. Nothing should be taken away from him. We're arguing about the scoreline. He's worked his way to where he is today. He deserves to be where he is. He went into this fight against one of the most dangerous men in the UFC and didn't hide, didn't, run away. He was there putting on the pressure and he got the victory that he said for over a year he would get. And so congratulations to him. And it will be interesting to see who will be next up for him. In terms of high profile fights, he would definitely want a rematch. One of the most dangerous fights in the division, the most dangerous fight in the division, but he would definitely want that fight again because, listen, these fighters are trying to make money. You've got a short career in MMA and you've got to make the most money that you can. We'll cover the rest of the fights quickly. Gaethje versus Fiziev. Again, this was a rematch. These two had fought before. Gaethje winning in an absolute war. This was a short notice fight for Fiziev. We had Dan Hooker who had to pull out, so we were expecting a banger fight between Gaethje and him. We didn't get that, but this was more than exciting to say the least. Gaethje winning 2-1, no argument there. Less of a war than we saw the first time, however, both men with incredible output, great strikers. Gaethje, again, I think he's shown himself to be a level above the rest, but is he the best? No. And that's the interesting position he finds himself. Number 3 in the division. Where does he go? Where does he go? If I was the UFC, it's a difficult one because Gaethje's, he's taking up this last minute opportunity against Fiziev. He could have easily just walked away and says, I'm not interested in this, but he hasn't. He's stood up, he's fought, and he's won. And where does he go? I don't know. You can't give him the rematch against Max. It doesn't work. Max absolutely destroyed him. He said he doesn't want to fight Dustin Poirier anymore. Understandable. The two have had incredible wars again, taxing on the body. I'm just going to think, where does he go? With Topuria coming into the division and fighting Islam, the fight that makes sense is Gaethje versus Arman Tsarukyan. That's what screams out to me as the fight that makes sense now. Unless he was going to run back the Dan Hooker fight for an incredible matchup, which I think the fans would definitely love. But in terms of his own position and getting to where he wants to get to, the Tsarukyan fight makes the most sense. Jalen Turner versus Barmundos, one that I was looking forward to. Two incredibly entertaining fighters. Jalen Turner with his, size, his unique skill set. Barmundos, who we've seen with exciting knockout already in the UFC. I was excited to see a lot more of him, and that we did see triangle choke. Jalen Turner, who has been on quite a bit of a layoff. Jalen Turner, who's been away from the octagon for quite a while now, actually retired after losing this fight. Devastating for him. Don't know what he's going through to make him, take on that decision. It has been a very difficult career for him. He is in the best division in the UFC, fighting the best of the best. He's shown up a number of times on his night. He's one of the best in the division. More often than not, recently, it hasn't been his night. And unfortunately for him, people like Barmundos are coming up. They have powerful striking. They have a ground game. They are more dangerous than him. And so I can understand his position. But Barmundos moves on. He is going to be ranked. He will be fighting tougher and tougher opposition. And I will be excited to see who will be going up against next. The Lemos fight, I'm not even going to get into. It was boring. It bored me to sleep. I'm not going to lie to you. Not a massive fan of that one. Final fight that we're going to cover is Bobby King Green versus Ruffy. It did not last incredibly long. Ruffy, who we've been looking forward to, part of the Fighting Nerds. And listen, those boys love to fight. They don't play any games. Ruffy style, you've got to love it. Consistently in a flow state. Early on in the fight, he is dangerous. I think he gets better in the early stages of the fight. As the fight goes on, he gets worse. I've seen it in his last fight. That was a real red flag for me. Survive him early and you've got a chance. But if not, he's going to be flowing. He's going to be throwing out wild strikes, things you haven't seen before. And that's exactly what we got from him. An absolutely amazing head kick. Flipping Bobby Green on the top of his head sent him to absolute sleep on the ground, out. Fight one. Ruffy moves on and his future is very, very bright. 12-1 overall. Again, you've got to survive those early rounds with him, especially round one. He'll wear out as you hit those latter rounds. If it's something, hopefully that's something he can work on in the future. Who in the lightweight division would I like to see him up against? I mean, I've got a couple thoughts and opinions, but I would potentially like to see him up against Barmundos. I mean, maybe I'm getting a little bit greedy, but two exciting, entertaining lightweights who are climbing the two exciting lightweights who are climbing the ladder. I think that would be very, very exciting to say the least. A lot to take away from UFC 313. The biggest thing is we have a new light heavyweight champion. His name is Magomed Ankalaev, and he did exactly what he said he would do and beat Alex Pereira at his own game. Gotta give my hats off to him, guys. Hopefully you've liked it. As I said before, like, subscribe, comment. I'll catch you soon. Peace.